My name is Eric McCray. I'm your recovery coach, and this is Victorious for Life podcast. We have a special guest, Dr. Alexander Nicolas, and it is a pleasure to have you here on Victorious for Life podcast. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. I'm glad to be here to
All right.
share the great things that God has done and what we're going to do to move forward.
That's good. That's good. Yes. Now, you're from Panama, correct?
Originally from Panama City, Panama.
That's good. That's good. Well, we're here to talk about the trial process, which actually started a lawsuit, correct?
Yes.
Can you actually elaborate on the lawsuit and what's going on?
Well, just to give you a little background, I'm originally from Panama City, Panama, moved down to the United States back in 1988. Graduated from Notre Dame High School, did my education here, bachelor's degree at Valley Forge Christian College, master's degree at the College in New Jersey, a PhD at Capella University. I worked for the Trenton Board of Education for 26 years in various capacities, teacher leader, facilitator, head administrator. And I encountered a discrimination policy, discrimination encounter in the 26 years that I've been working for the school district.
Okay. Also, too, you had a previous event on August 4th. It was a rally and press conference at City Hall.
Yeah, but let's just go back to the discrimination issue.
Okay.
So the discrimination issue is addressing a couple areas, which is racial discrimination, aiding and abetting, failure to promote, retaliation, etc. I've been with the system and I applied for more than 50 administrative jobs, and I've been passed for administration position. They have given me, some type of sort of position that try to get you into administration.
Okay.
And as an excuse not to grant me an administrative position. I worked for the city for so long. I've served the city, the community, and bringing this event, this lawsuit, is really stressed out the unfair practices that I've experienced, as a immigrant here in the United States.
Right. And again, as far as your credentials, what I'm saying, you have a lot of credentials which allow you to be a part of this field of work that you're doing as far as working with school. Now, what's your job title?
Well, right now I'm doing teacher world language, but I have the supervisor, superintendent certificate, principal certificate. And in addition to that, I got 2 out-of-state certificates. I got one from Florida and one from the state of Pennsylvania, administrative certificate. I also serve as a adjunct professor at Mercer County Community College too.
Right.
So the whole idea of me bringing this lawsuit is, and this is not the first time, this is the second time.
Oh,
so we actually got them for actually breach of contract because in 2016 February we did reach a sort of an agreement, and I signed that agreement believing that they were going to work with me and change, but apparently things just got worse. So now we actually in the second lawsuit. It might be a third one coming up soon too as well.
Now, the breach of contract, it has a lot to do with not respecting confidentiality.
Not respecting the agreement.
Oh, okay.
Under the law, once you sign a contract,
right.
Both parties has to
they have to
abide by the binding contract, and it is a violation.
Wow. Well, you know what? You have a lot of supporters, a lot of people that's in your corner, a lot of people that's because this is any type of injustice like this, it's something has to be done about it because it happening to you, it's happening to a lot of people, and it's not right.
And while we're talking about that, we had an event on August 4th right up at City Hall in Trenton, where we had the supporters came out. We had a couple speakers who came out, a couple politicians, prior school administrators who came out and spoke about the issue. I had the music band with me as well. So I was really represented by the community, which really saying, what, we have to really work on these unfair practices. And the whole idea of working on these unfair practices is to help the young people that are coming through. Now, as you mentioned before earlier, it's not just dealing about with one specific, because everybody's in this boat. It could happen to, white, black, but the problem is that there's seclusion. We don't see it that way, but there's seclusion.
Right.
Once we're talking about, seclusion, we're talking about once you apply for a job or you go get a mortgage, you get a loan, you put an application, your ethnicity. So once you put an application, your ethnicity, that becomes a constitute and a stereotype for whoever is in charge to say, okay, I'm gonna either make a specific group to get certain amount of privilege or certain amount of things. And you know, the whole point is that I believe and I understand, and because here in the country we do, you know, we went through a situation that we have, you know, Barack Obama, our president, you know. So I think that we have supersede those stages of, you know, we going back to redirecting ourselves to the negativity of saying, you know what, because this person was either an immigrant or it's black or whatever, he's not going to be able to exercise the job or whatever. And that's something that we have to bring a change to. Now, aside from, you know, the lawsuit, we also want to take a resolution to Washington. So they take out of the application process, they ask you about what ethnicity you belong to. They're not supposed to ask you about that, because if you're qualified, you have the means, you have the, you know, the credentials, you have, you know, the finances reports to prove that you are the business owner, whatever, that don't matter.
So that's going to be nationwide.
Yeah, we're working on that legislation soon. As soon as we come out, you know, finish up with this trial, then we are moving on that legislation. We've already started. So we're working with some politicians up in Pennsylvania to really work on this issue, because it's a serious issue that is going to affect our young generation.
Right.
And as you know, sometimes we say, you know, even our young people, you know, they talk about, okay, you know, how the system is, and think about it now with the issue with the police, the same problem. You know, people don't mention it or talk about it, but it's a reality, because we fall into that situation where people they don't respect you because they look at you, either your color, your race, or your ethnicity. But one thing I like about Dr. King, see, Dr. King says that we should judge the individual not by the color of the skin, but by the content.
Right, by the character.
Of the character of the person.
Right.
So, and that's what we basically, you know, are lacking. You know, we're going to find discrimination all over. But now it's like, if you don't look at it in a specific, and nobody done anything about it, it's going to be difficult. So, in bringing this whole issue is to really show this generation, humanity, that, you know what, everything has an ending, because I was bullied, okay, all these years, talking about 13 years, more than 350
And that's
jobs.
trauma by itself.
Exactly. So in addition to that, you know, I went through a stressful time. I was out of work for 1 year, and it took 8 doctors to put me back together. So when I'm talking about this issue, I'm talking about something that's really serious. You know, this charges are serious. This issue is serious, and we have to take it serious. No joking around, because if your grandkid goes and educate himself for college or whatever, and he's been at the location and working and doing what he's supposed to do, and has the ability to do the job, why somebody who feels they're superior, race-wise, going to say, you are not going to do that job? That's not fair. So the only way we're going to bring change is by, you know, taking it to court, doing our rallies, and changing legislation, because we have to put 3 components together to really make that change.
I like that. And I just want to elaborate on something. You know, you mentioned that y'all want to go to D.C., Washington, D.C., and pretty much, you know, just eliminate that particular question.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying, for your ethnic background. But they did that when it came to, you know, asking you if you ever been convicted of a crime or something like that. When they removed that question, have you ever, you know, committed any type of crime? And you know what I'm saying, and before they had that option, it would prevent people from actually getting a job.
Exactly.
So now that from a legal aspect, the law has passed. Any job application, you cannot ask that question on any job application. Have you ever been convicted of any, you know, criminal offenses, anything like that? And these give a person an opportunity, a chance to get their foot in the door when it comes to an interview process.
Exactly.
Because it was difficult for convicted felons to get even go through the interview process. Let alone get the job.
Exactly.
But Department of Corrections, they expect you to work, especially if you're on probation. So how are you supposed to do that?
Exactly.
When you're just getting out of jail and trying to get yourself together. And it's difficult to do that because they judge you based off your past, based off prior mistakes, and it's difficult to rehabilitate. It's like, what's the purpose of rehabilitation? Exactly. How can you expect a person to rehabilitate when you use certain things to, to like nail them to the cross in a sense? It's hard for people to recover. Even on the aspect of one thing you can't control is, your ethnic background. Exactly. Who can control that? Exactly. Nobody. It's not fair for people to get judged based off the color of their skin. Like you said, Dr. King has a great point. He made a great point. If a person has to suffer any type of consequences, Let it be because their character, the way they conduct themselves.
Exactly.
Not because you're Spanish, not because you're from Panama or you're African American. So I agree with you 100%.
And you know, talking about that, it's like some people say the excuse that, oh yeah, well, you know, the issue is optional. It's optional. You decide not to, you know, answer that question.
Right.
Most of the time, they're definitely gonna call you because they feel that you're hiding something.
That's true.
So the whole point is that, you know, we need to make this make this an awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it is a point that people are clear about. Yes, we have discrimination. Here we have racism. But the problem is that the little person legally cannot fight this battle because it's very expensive. So, you know, sometimes you work at a job or you're in a situation where they're unfair to you. Even if you go to a, let's say, a restaurant or something, and they, you know, they don't want your admission because you're either whatever race you are. You can fight that in court legally, but it takes time, money, and so forth. So people sometimes will not pursue it, will back off or whatever. But one thing I want to encourage individuals, and you know, throughout the event we had on August 4th, mm-hmm. I spoken to 2 or 3 individuals who said to me, we are going through the same situation, okay? And it's in other cities here in New Jersey. Think about it. So if we start to make sure, bring awareness in the educational field about what's going on, I can guarantee that not just us here, or more people going to come out. Mm-hmm. Because the problem is people are afraid of retaliation. And like you said before, we were talking before, see, the problem is when you at your job and legally, you are in your rights under the First Amendment, you're in your rights to voice your concern. So if you feel that you're being mistreated or you're treated unfair, you can voice it. But when you voice your concern, you know they're going to retaliate against you. They're going to try to either try not to demote you or try not to increase your pay or try to cut your pay or do whatever they need to do to work on you and say to you, well, you know what, we're not going to allow you to open your mouth and voice your concern. But the thing is that if you believe that you have a legit complaint or you have a legit case, then you should voice your concern, because at the end of the day, the truth shall set you free. And not only the truth shall set you free, but you'll be able to reach out to people who are in a negativity standpoint of saying, oh, being afraid, saying, you know, I'm not going to say nothing because I'm going to get terminated. I'm not going to say nothing because I'm going to get fired. And if they terminate you, mm-hmm. under the law, that's wrongful termination.
Right.
And there are consequences to those things. So the problem is people, you know, have not, you know, reached out. Now, I'm fortunate that, you know, now I'm in law school, I'm in my 3rd year of law school, so it's a big difference now, okay. You know, because people don't understand the legal aspects of these things, but because of what happened to me, you know, I was forced to do that. I was forced to go to law school and try to understand so I can defend myself and let these people understand, you're going to stop bullying me, because guess what? I've been bullied. Right. And now it's going to stop. It's like I spoke about it on August 4th. It's like, you know, you have a kid and you always come, give me your candy, give me your money. But guess what? One day you get upset and you say, you know what? You ain't getting my candy. You want it, you better come fight me for it. Okay. So I think that, you know, we have to really change the stereotype of how we approach things.
That's you know what, that's good. And again, this is I'm so grateful, and I respect the fact that you are taking a stand for this. You know, courage is doing the right thing in the midst of fear. That's the basic definition of courage. And for you, you have courage. But those who are fearful and they're afraid to speak out because, like you mentioned, they're afraid of retaliation. Well, somebody has to have fear and to speak out in spite of what may happen, and trust that God is going to expose, you know, the negative things that people are doing to cause, you know, this uncomfortable situation in the first place. And I'm so grateful that you're doing that, because there's other people out there that most likely they're afraid too. Mm-hmm. And hopefully your actions, you know what I'm saying, what you're doing is going to encourage other people. They can start taking baby steps mentally and emotionally to break through that fear, to face fear for what it is. Fear has 2 definitions: face everything and rise, mm-hmm. or forget everything and run. Exactly. You're doing, you're facing everything and rise. That's what fear is. You have unhealthy fear and you got healthy fear. This is healthy fear. You know what I'm saying? You're facing everything and rise. You're not going to allow, politics, their intimidation, the tactics that they normally use to try to intimidate people. You're not allowing that to stop you. Exactly. And I respect that.
And one thing I want to mention is that throughout the whole situation, I had to write a song. I wrote this song, I'm a champion waiting to be crowned, because of the whole scenario. People, when they go through different traumas, because people go through trauma, and when you go through trauma, it's hard to get delivered from it. It's not easy because guess what? You are the one who's living with it on a daily basis,
Right.
and you have to cope with it on a daily basis. So throughout the strength of the Lord, throughout the situation,
Right.
then change can come. So I'm a strong believer that once we voice our concerns, we go through the proper channels with respect. I think that things can change. And I know for a one of the factors is that change comes gradually. And if we look at the whole history about immigration, segregation, and stuff, it's been through a process. But the thing now is that we are at a certain point where we should not have to go through these experiences. Okay, but it's still happening. So how we do that? We make people know what our accusers have done. We make people know what they have completed. So that's why I don't have no fear, because guess what? I know somebody's going through the same situation, and I know they might be afraid. They don't want to say nothing. They taking it in. They taking it in. They taking it in. And unfortunately, they're gonna keep taking it in until one day they want to explode. So I think that by bringing this to the court, bringing this to the attention of the people, I think really stimulate others. And what I'm saying is that we're doing it for the future generation that's coming forward, because we're hoping that things get better, and the only way they're going to get better is when we take it to court and we take it to legislation, because they are the ones who really make the law, change the law, and really make this institution understand what you're doing is wrong.
Right, I agree. But again, I want to thank you so much for taking time out your busy day, being a special guest on Victorious Life Podcast. But other than that, this is going to go out to the masses. Everybody needs to hear this particular episode because it's very important for the purpose of doing two things, bringing awareness to the community and providing encouragement. So this is good. Anything you want to say before we wrap this up?
I want to thank you for having us here. Like I said, it's going to air on Air Records TV network. It's going to be an article coming out as well. And like I said, we are going to bring awareness. You can visit drswabin1.com. You can also visit arrecordstevnetwork.com. You're going to get more information about this. Thank you for having me here. I think that the whole idea is every little chip we put in, we can voice the concern, and we can let people know, okay, you know what, this is unfair practice. This is how we can make the change. This is what we need to do to make it better for society, not for a specific individual, but to make it better for society. And one thing I want people to know is that when you serve, because aside from being an educator, being a minister, being a musician, being a pastor, it's about service.
Right.
And when we service our kids, when we service our community, we know that there's a reward, not only down here, but there's a reward up in heaven. But thank you so much for having us here in this program.
Thank you. Well, thank y'all so much. My name is Eric MACCRAY. I'm your recovery coach, and this is Victorious for Life Podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nicolas.